Hello everybody, this is Mrs. Zirin and her teddy bear Bearchette, who says hello. We're here with another story for you today, but before we get to our story, we want to say a super special hello to Madison and Mason, who sent us messages this week, and we also want to say a super special hello to all of the friends that we got to see at school on Friday. It was so nice to see everybody. I missed seeing you, so it was awesome getting a chance to see all of your faces there as you drove past the other day. So I guess we'll get ready for the story now. Today's story is about a character who's a lot nicer than Mr. Mischief from last time. But this guy, he's a little on the chatty side. You'll see what I mean. His name is Mr. Chatterbox. You ready, Bearchette? Okay, me too. You ready at home? Okay, here we go. Mr. Chatterbox was one of those people who just couldn't stop talking. He used to talk to anybody and everybody about anything and everything going on and on and on and on. And on. And when he didn't have anybody to talk to, he used to talk to himself. "Good morning, Mr. Chatterbox," he used to say to himself. "Good morning to you," he used to reply to himself. "Nice day, isn't it?" "Yes, it is for this time of year." And so on and so on and so on, so on and so on. He lived in a box-shaped house in a village, Chatterbox Cottage. One morning, the mailman arrived with a letter for him. "Good morning, Mr. Chatterbox," said Mr. Mailman. "Good morning to you," replied Mr. Chatterbox. "As I was saying to myself only yesterday, or was it the day before? I forget. However, it's not such a good morning, in my opinion, but I might be wrong, although I'm not very often. As I was the other day. Monday, I think it was. Or perhaps it was Tuesday. But never mind, because it is such a good morning, don't you agree? Yes, of course you do. Because that's what you said to me in the first place, and he went on all morning until the poor mailman was late delivering all his mail. He does know how to talk, huh? That afternoon, Mr. Chatterbox went into the hat store in the village. "Hello, Mr. Bowler," he said to the man who owned the hat store. "Do you think if it's possible that I could buy, if it's not too expensive, but I'm sure it won't be, a new hat? Because, would you believe it? Yes, of course you would. But anyway, as I was saying, my present hat, the one on my head, as you can see, is getting, how can I put it, a little too old, because I've had it for, let me see now, it must be, let's think, 10 years? No, I'm telling a lie. It can't be that long. Or can it? Well, yes, it could be, but on the other hand..." And he went on all afternoon and half of the night, long after poor Mr. Bowler should have closed his store and gone home. Eventually, when Mr. Bowler managed to get a word in edgewise, he promised to order a new hat for Mr. Chatterbox. Then he pushed Mr. Chatterbox out of his store, still talking, of course, and he went home for his supper, which was cold, of course, because Mrs. Bowler had cooked it for him hours ago. And while he ate, he thought. Exactly 1 week later, the new hat for Mr. Chatterbox arrived in a smart red hat box. The mailman delivered it to Mr. Bowler's shop. "At last," said Mr. Bowler, heaving a sigh of relief. "I think this hat is going to be the answer to the problem of Mr. Chatterbox talking so much." "I wish it could be," said the mailman, "but how can it?" "Because," replied Mr. Bowler, "this hat is a magic hat." "Oh," replied the mailman, who didn't quite understand. That same afternoon, Mr. Bowler took the new hat to Chatterbox Cottage. "Oh, goody," said Mr. Chatterbox, seizing the hat box and opening it. "It's my new hat, my lovely new hat. I couldn't wait for it to arrive. In fact, I got up early this morning because, aren't I silly, I just knew. I don't know how, but I really knew. You know, that today would be the day. I don't know how I knew, but I knew, and it is. And here's my hat. And oh, isn't it beautiful? I can't wait to try it on. And oh, I do hope it looks good on me. Do you think it will? Yes, of course you do. And why don't you try it on?" said Mr. Bowler, grinning. "Try it on? Yes, of course, I must try it on. How silly of me to stand here chattering on when I haven't tried it on yet. Yes, I will, absolutely, definitely, try it on right away. Because, as I said, it's silly to just talk about trying it on and then not try it on, isn't it?" And so he took the hat out of the hat box and he put it on. It was a beautiful hat. This hat is, yes, it really is, to say the least, one of the better hats that I have seen in my life. And I must say, I have seen some hats, and furthermore. But while he was talking, a funny thing was happening. The more words that came out of Mr. Chatterbox's mouth, the larger his hat became. The more Mr. Chatterbox talked, the more the hat grew and grew. Mr. Chatterbox kept on talking, and the hat kept on growing. "I can't see anything," he said. "One minute I was standing here trying on my new hat, and now, all of a sudden, without any warning, just like that." The hat grew down to his feet, and Mr. Chatterbox stopped talking. And as soon as he stopped talking, the hat grew smaller and smaller until it was the same size as it was when he'd first put it on. Mr. Bowler had gone when Mr. Chatterbox couldn't see him, and now he was walking back to his store. "My special magic hat really works," he chuckled. The following day, Mr. Chatterbox was out for a walk when he met the mailman in the village. "Hello, mailman," he said. "Do you like my new hat? Have you ever seen such a fine hat? I'm sure you never have. And what a hat! And..." But you know what was going to happen, don't you? The hat grew and grew and grew the more Mr. Chatterbox talked. "Now I know what Mr. Bowler meant by a magic hat," chuckled the mailman. And he went on his way, leaving poor Mr. Chatterbox speechless. He thought, thinking, not talking, thinking. And do you know something? That hat taught Mr. Chatterbox his lesson. And these days, he doesn't talk half as much as he used to, or even a quarter as much. And you know the reason for that, don't you? Yes, of course you do. But keep it under your hat. The end. All right, everybody, I hope you like the story of Mr. Chatterbox. We'll be back later this week with more stories for you. So until then, bye for now. Bye. Bye.